thankful to him because of the fact we are made in his image, because that he loves us so much. He has blessed us. He has answered our prayers. He has sustained us. He's done so many wonderful things for us, and for that we ought to be eternally grateful. Thus the reason why we're here today. As a demonstration of our appreciation for what God has done for all of us. And for that, we ought to be thankful. If you're here this morning and you're not a child of God, you're not a Christian, you're not a member of the Church of Christ, we beg, we urge, we implore, we plead with you, get to know God.
Yes, sir.
Ask that age-old question, what must I do to be saved? Inquire about your salvation so that you too can be with God in eternity. And we're thankful for your presence on this morning. Contrary to what's going on around us in terms of our government, in terms of the shutdown and what's going on in the world at large, we need to realize that God is in control. And I know, especially with our government shutdown, it seems like one man has the power to shut down the government for a month, and it seems like he's in control of everything. But he's not. And in order for us to appreciate the fact that man is not in control as he thinks he is, all you got to do is just think about your own life. Amen. We are very limited in our abilities, our powers, and in the control that we have. For example, if you think you are in total, complete control of everything, all you have to do is lose your cell phone. Lose your cell phone. And you find out that you're not in control, or you don't have as much control as you think you have. You lose your cell phone, you lose everything. You lose your contacts, you lose the ability to get on the internet, you lose the ability to text. Lose your cell phone and see how much control you have. You ever forgot your cell phone? You leave your cell phone at home? You're not going to drive 5 to 10 minutes. You turn around and go back and get that Wi-Fi because your cell phone is your life. You ain't even got to lose your cell phone. I tell you, just to show you that you're not in control as you think you are. Man, is mess around and forget the passcode. You can have a cell phone, but if you can't get into it to access the features of the phone, you still don't have power. Better yet, you ever had the power turned off at your house? They knocked on the door one day and said, we got to cut the power off for a couple of hours. We're going to be doing some work out here. Man, you can't do nothing. You can't cook, you can't watch television, you can't get on the internet, you can't do nothing without power. So what man needs to understand, man is not in control, as much control as he thinks he is. And Paul's sermon in Acts chapter 17 shows us, it demonstrates the very person, the power, and the plan of God. That's why Paul started with God. Acts chapter 17 and verse number 24, God that made the world and all things therein. Notice what Paul says. God made the world, the entire universe, and everything that's therein. You take the smallest atom, the smallest molecule, God made that. God that made the world and all things therein. Seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelling not in temple made with hands. Neither is worship with men's hand as though he needed anything, seeing that he giveth to all men life and breath in all things. Paul said it is God. God, 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 God. This morning we're talking about the fact God is in control. God is in control. God ruleth in the affairs of men, and God will not relinquish that power, that control to anybody. But I know sometimes what we're seeing in the news and what we're seeing in our world at large, sometimes we lose sight of the fact that God is in control. But he is. God is in control. God is in control. How do we know it? Let's notice a couple things. This is not exhaustive, but these are several things. These few things show us that God is in control. Number one, creation exalts God. Not only that, the world is owned, or it belongs to God. And then thirdly, God rules in the affairs of men. God is still in control. You need to be convinced and persuaded of that this morning. If you walk out in this morning and you think the White House, our monarchs around the world, if you think they're in control and they running something, you're going to be sadly mistaken. God is still in control. First of all, what about creation? This is what you learn from creation. The material universe reveals to us somebody had to make it.
Amen.
This thing didn't just pop up overnight. Contrary to what we believe, what we've been taught about the Big Bang Theory and the evolution and stuff like that, no, somebody had to make the universe. Somebody had to put all of these laws and all of these principles into play. So when we see the world and we see creation, creation implies a creator. Every cause, listen to me, has to have an adequate effect. We talk about cause and effect. Every effect has to have an adequate cause. The Bible supports this. Look at Hebrews chapter 3 and verse number 4. Notice what the Hebrew writer says concerning the cause and effect relationship and God. Notice what he says. Every house is builded by some man, but he that built all things is God. And sometimes, they build new houses. Every year they build new houses. Every day they build new houses. Aren't you impressed with new houses? And we talked about it this morning, man. You see a new house, you see a new car, it makes you want to go out and get it on it. Y'all remember years and years ago, I remember watching Robin Leach, The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. They had some elaborate houses on the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and then came along cribs. You see these wonderful homes that people build and how big they are and how spacious they are and how grand they look. Every house is built by some man. You think about sometimes. We stay in hotels. We eat at restaurants. We stay at homes built by men we never met before. You go to a restaurant, you don't know who built that restaurant. You might not ever know in your lifetime who built that restaurant, but you're going to eat there. But he says every house, every edifice is built by some man. But he that built all things is God. So what's the point? The Hebrew writer is trying to get us to understand, don't place so much emphasis on the creation and forget about the one who created it. We have a tendency to focus on the product as opposed to the one who made it. So he says, he that built all things is God. God made everything. God created everything. There's nothing that you can put your finger on that God did not create. God created the world. The Bible supports this. Notice if you will. Look if you will. Look at Psalm chapter 8. Brother Hampton, look at Psalm chapter 8. Start at verse number 1. We're going to work our way down to verse number 4. But notice what he says in Psalm 8:1.
O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth.
God's name is excellent in all of the earth. The world knows about God. The world knows about the Lord of Lords. God's name is excellent in all of the earth. So that lets me know all of the earth knows about God. Now, they might not obey him, but they know he exists. Nobody is without knowledge. The man that lives in Timbuktu, the man that lives in the third world country over here that we claim they don't know about God, no, he know about it. God's name is excellent in all of the earth. What else does it say?
Who has set the glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and the servant has thou ordained.
God is so powerful. God allowed these young children, these babes, to proclaim his name. Didn't you hear a little while ago the young child in the back say amen? Out of the mouth of babes, God has ordained strength. What else does it say?
When I consider thy heavens and work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained. What is man that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man that thou visit him?
Now, we so blessed. We got all these telescopes, all these binoculars. We can just look at the sky. We can peer into the sky. We can look into eons and eons into the space. And so here is the psalmist, presumably David. David says, you know what? Without the aid of a telescope, when I look into the heavenly realm, when I look at the sky, when I look at the heavens, the work of the heavens which God has made, then I start looking at the moon and the stars, the constellations, and all of the billions of galaxies. He said, then I start thinking about man. If God could do that, what can he do in man's life? If God could create that, what could he do for his creation? Because man is the very crown of God's creation. When you go back to Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, man is the very pinnacle, the very apex of creation. Man ain't like what science say he is, like he's some ape evolving into man. No, man is the very crown of God's creation. So David says, what is man? The dog mindful of him. Let me tell you, God is mindful of man. Because we made in his image. He answers our prayers. He protects us. He provides for us. He works in our lives exceeding abundantly above that we can ask or think. God is mindful of man. But David based his estimation on what God does in the life of man based on what he saw in creation. David said, you know what? There got to be a God in heaven who works in the lives of men when I look at creation. If he can do that, what can he do in my life? Better yet, what can he do in your life? You ever thought about that? You go home sometime and look in creation. Look at nature. Look at the skies and see what God did. You know science is still trying to figure out about all these different life forms, all the different billions of galaxies and stars that they cannot count, they will never ever be able to count. Who did that? God. God did that. And the psalmist was impressed about God when he saw creation. You go to Psalm chapter 19 and verse number 1. The heavens declare the glory of God. The heavens declare that God is. They declare the very glory, the very person, the very power of God. Don't sit around here like the atheists and the skeptics and the unbelievers talking about, well, I don't know. I don't know if there is a God. Why don't you know that? Brothers and sisters, believe it or not, the people who claim not to know that there is a God, they, by their very selves, are a demonstration that there is a God. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. You telling me that you don't believe there's a God when you are a very manifestation and demonstration that there is a God. So he says, the heavens declare the very glory of God. When you see heaven and you see creation, you have to be convinced of the fact that there is a God. So when we think about creation, so many times we get wrapped up in all of the stuff that God did in creation. We start looking at creation, and we start looking at pictures of tropical island destinations, and we start looking at places like Bora Bora, and places like Hawaii, and places like the Dominican Republic, and all the places that we want to go. We start thinking about a cruise, and we just impressed when we see those pictures of these island vacation destinations. Don't get so caught up on that portrait that you lose sight of God. Because it was God who made that turquoise blue water. It was God who put them palm trees out there. It was God who made that island the way it is. And so we need to be impressed by God when we see creation. That's what Paul is talking about in Romans chapter 1. Look at Romans chapter 1. And I want you to notice how Paul places the emphasis on God, the creator, as opposed to the creation. What does he say in Romans chapter 1, beginning at verse number 18?
For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. The
reason why God's wrath was demonstrated, because Paul says they held the truth. They suppressed the truth. In other words, they knew there was a God. And as opposed to getting to know that God and living for that God, they declined that God. What else does it say?
Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them.
That which may be known of God. They knew it was a God. Brothers and sisters, don't buy into this stuff. People talking about there ain't no God. The reason I don't believe there's no God because you can't see him. There's a whole lot of stuff I can't see, but I believe is there. You stick your hand out that outlet over there, you can't see no electricity, but I believe it's there. Go and put your hand over there. you might not be able to see it, but it's there. It's some stuff right now that's caused all of us in this room to be alive. It's called air. You can't see it, but it's there. So just because you can't see it, that does not mean it don't exist. So they knew there was a God, although they couldn't see him, but they didn't want to live for him. What else does it say?
For the invisible things of him from the treasure of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power in God's head, so that they are without excuse.
They're without excuse. People can see whatever they want, You can come up with all of the hypothetical situations, and it's amazing. You talk to people, and people just be honest. Just be honest. As one preacher said, just be judgment day honest. You're going to have to be honest on the judgment day. Just be judgment day honest. If you tell me I just choose not to believe there's a God, I don't want to live him, I can understand that. But don't come up with all these hypothetical situations about, well, what if a person lived 500 years ago and they couldn't read or write, they couldn't know there was a God. God don't want to hear that. Because you could read or write 500 years ago. So stop coming up with all of these hypothetical situations, these circumstances, and you have to realize most of the time the hypothetical situation don't apply to the person asking the question. I mean, just be honest. Just tell the truth. I don't want to live for God. I don't want to be a Christian. I want to do my own thing. I can accept that. I can respect that. Okay. But you try to come with all these different arguments, try to convince me that there's no God, is not going to work. And that's why these folk were condemned in Romans chapter 1. What else does he say?
Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. Neither was thankful, but became vain in their imagination. And their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing themselves to be wise,
see, that's the problem.
They became fools.
That's the problem right there. Everybody wants to be wise in their own mind. We want to be wise so much and to the degree that we are so smart and we are so intelligent that we have become so smart as to just push God out of the picture. That's what we see nowadays. That men and women have become so smart that we just have smarted God out of the picture. And so he says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. And what do?
And changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image, made like unto corruptible man, to bind to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own heart, to dishonor their own body between themselves.
Notice now, they exchange the very glory of God, and they turn God's image into corruptible things, as birds and beasts, four-footed beasts and creeping things, all of those things. They start serving animals, they start serving wood and stone and silver and gold. They exchange the knowledge and worship of the true God to start serving that which God had made. And God found fault with them. You know why? Because there is not a case, there is not a scenario where a man should turn to that which is created as opposed to that which is the creator. We ought to be serving and worshiping the creator and not creation. But you find out sometimes folks are more interested in that which God made as opposed to him who made it. And so we need to realize creation exalts God. When you think about creation, you got to think about the one who made creation. In Hebrews chapter 11, the Bible says this, by faith. Hebrews chapter 11, through faith we understand. Hebrews 11:3, through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. In other words, believe it or not, at one point in time in history, what we see did not exist. How did it come into being? God brought it into being. God took that which did not exist and he made that which does exist. Man cannot do that. You can't do that. Anything you make, we make, I make, we got to use material that's already in existence. God took nothing and made something. I mean, so imagine what he can do in your life. You know, we ain't got nothing anyway. He can take our nothing and he can make something. That's what he did with the world. So creation exalts God, and that's why he's still in control. It'll never be the case. Man ought to be impressed with creation more so than the creator. God is always going to be exalted above that which he created. In the second place, the world belongs to him. Now, I want to be very careful how I say this, because I know we say this in an accommodative manner, and we say this to make a point. Just about every adult, every parent, every grandparent has fussed at their children, has fussed at their grandchildren, And we may say stuff like, don't be slamming doors in my house. Don't we say that? Yeah. I've said it. I still say it. You say it. You still say it. We've all said that. But when we say that, we know good and well that ain't our house. But to make a point, we let our young people know, I pay for it. I pay the bills. It belongs to me only in an accommodating sense. Because in reality, it's God's house. It belongs to him. Everything belongs to him. And so what we need to realize, God created the world. Therefore, it belongs unto him. Let me tell you, it belongs to him. It's never going to belong to us. And you ain't even got to know theology. You ain't got to know doctrine. All you got to realize, you go out here and buy a house. It's going to take your lifetime to pay for it. Some folk buy a house, they die trying to pay the thing off. And it still ain't theirs. You know why? Because when you die, it's going to go to somebody else. So we just rent stuff. And that's what we need to understand. We just rent stuff. That's why Paul was saying in 1 Timothy chapter 6. He tells us to be content with such things that we have. Paul said, you know what? Man brought nothing into this world. And it is certain that he can carry anything out. 1 Timothy 6:7. Paul said, we don't own that anyway. And so everything belongs to the God of heaven. Look at Psalm chapter 24. Look at Psalm 24. Notice, if you will, look at verse number 1.
The earth is the Lord.
That's it. The earth is the Lord. Now, if you got anything that's outside of this earth, then you can make the argument that it's yours. All right. You got something that's not on earth. You got a car that they didn't make on earth. You got a house that they built it out of space somewhere and brought it back and delivered unto you. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. What else does he say?
The world and they that will dwell therein. God
says everything belongs to me. Everything belongs to God. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. The world and all they that dwell therein. Everybody that lives on God's green earth belongs to him. The psalmist was saying in Psalm chapter 100, we are the people of his pasture, the sheep of his pasture. So we all belong to God. We're all created in his image. He created us, he made us, and we belong to him. The world and all things therein. Look at Psalm chapter 50. Once again, reinforcing that the world belongs unto him. Psalm 50, verse number 10. What does he say?
For every beast of the forest is mine.
God says, not only do I own the world, not only do I own humanity, God says all the beasts of the forest. You know, sometimes, you watch National Geographic, you watch some of these shows without in these foreign countries, they got all these animals. It's some animals out here we hadn't even named yet. They got some we ain't never seen before. But God knows them. They belong to him. What else does he say?
And the cattle upon 1,000 hills.
And the cattle on 1,000 hills. And as one man said, the grass on the hill upon which the cattle stand on, God owns that too. What else does he say?
I know all the fowl of the mountain, and the wild beasts of the fields are mine.
God said, I know all the birds on the mountain. I know all of them. And like I said, we still discovering new species of animals. We still giving new names to new species. God said, I already know them. I know that bird over there. I know that bird over there. I know that bird up there. God knows all of the birds. God says, I know all of the different animals, all the different groups and classes and species. Yeah. What else does he say?
If I were hungry, I would not
now notice this. God says, if I was hungry, why would I tell man? What is man going to provide for God? When God given man everything. God said, if I were hungry, why would I tell man? Man can't supply the needs of God. So he says, if I were hungry, if I was lacking anything, man could not supply it. So God wouldn't tell man. Therefore, the world belongs unto God. God can take care of himself. And what else does he say?
For the world is mine, and the fullness thereof.
Once again, echoing Psalm 24. The world is mine, and the fullness thereof. The world belongs unto the God of heaven. Even so much so, Jesus knew this. Look at Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5. Jesus knew. that the world belonged unto his Father. Matthew chapter 5, begin at verse number 34. I want you to know what Jesus says. And notice the emphasis that he places here. Matthew chapter 5, begin at verse number 34.
But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool.
Jesus said, heaven is his throne, and the earth is his footstool. What else does it say?
Neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king.
Jesus says, heaven and earth belong to God. He got that from Isaiah chapter 66, verses 1 and 2. Where God told Isaiah, the heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. In other words, God's jurisdiction is heaven and earth. You know, sometimes we look at these county lines out here, these state lines. You got Arkansas over here, you got Tennessee right here, and you got Mississippi down here. And so that's the extent of our boundaries. God's boundaries, his jurisdiction is heaven and earth. And so all therein belongs to God. So when we think about the fact that God owns the world, it belongs unto him, I want you to notice now. Since God created the world and it belongs unto him, God determines how it is operated and governed. Man can't do that. Man don't get to dictate how the world is ran. God got some laws, some principles in place that we are way long before man got here. The reason being, what God created, whatever God created, you know this. What God creates, he also regulates. Everything God creates, he regulates. And when man can learn that and he can know that, he'll be better off. Man ain't running that around here. God is still in control. Because that which God created, God determines how it is operating, how it is governed. And then, notice this. God rules even in the affairs of men. I want you to think about this. Even when we think about human government, and we think about laws, principles, precincts, jurisprudence, all of this stuff, all the stuff that is attached and associated with our government, the very fact that the government exists shows us there's a God. I want you to notice this. Look at Romans chapter 13. I want you to notice how many times the word God is used in reference to government and human powers. Romans 13 and verse number 1.
To let every soul be subject unto the higher power.
First thing Paul says, every soul got to be subject unto the higher powers. You got to obey the police.
Yes.
That's it. Nobody in this room disagrees with police brutality. Nobody agrees with that. It's not right.
No.
It'll never be right. God does not condone that. But guess what? For those police officers who are doing it the right way, who are living by the own laws that they are sworn to protect and to abide by, that came from God. Let every soul be subject unto the higher power. You see, let me tell you, everybody is in subjection to somebody else. Don't ever get to the point and think, when you get grown, that you ain't got to be in subjection to somebody else. Let me tell you something. When the police officer pull you over, everybody got to be in subjection. You don't care who you are. You can be a preacher, you can be an elder, you can be a CEO. When that police officer pull you over, you don't care about that. Everybody got to be in subjection to somebody else. So the sooner we learn that, the better we'll be. What else does he say?
But there is no power but of God.
Where did the power come from?
Of God.
Of God. The mere fact that law and order and government exists, that came from God. Can you imagine how it would be without law and order? Not a television show.
Yes, sir.
If man did not have law and order, we would have complete anarchy. Just like it was in the days of Judges. Judges 17:6, when there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Judges 21:25, when there was no king in Israel, every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Judges 18:1, Judges 19:1, when there was no king, everybody did that which was right. But the mere fact that we got law and order, we got laws. Aren't you glad we got laws? I'm so glad we got laws. You know why?
Oh, yeah.
Because some of us are just as crazy. We crazy. If we didn't have law and order.
Amen.
Can you imagine how some of us will operate? I mean, you think about how bad it is right now. We got laws on the interstate. You can only go 70 miles per hour. It's there for a reason. Don't think you're the only one that want to drive 95. That sign is there for a reason. It's for the safety of everybody else who don't want to drive 95 miles per hour. It's there for a reason. But the mere fact that it exists, it tells us there's a God. What else does he say?
The powers that be ordained of God.
The powers that be ordained of God. Government, police, the military, all that came from God. That idea came from God. What else does it say?
Whosoever therefore resists the power, resist the order of God.
If you resist the power, if you try to say what you know, because you know some people don't believe in government. Some people want to overthrow all government, all laws. They want to just live this carefree life. If you do that, you are resisting God. What else does it say?
And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation.
Paul said, if you resist, you're going to receive yourself greater condemnation. And Paul could say that from experience.
Yes.
Because when Paul was there before the tribunal of majesties in Acts chapter 25, verse number 11, Paul said, if I've done anything wrong, anything worthy of death, Paul said, you know what? I ought to die. Paul said, send me to the electric chair. Send me to capital punishment. What else does it say? I want you to notice something.
For rulers are not a terror to good works.
Rulers not a terror to good works. You know when you abide by the law, when you a quote-unquote law-abiding citizen,
Yes.
you ain't got to be afraid of the police and the sheriff and stuff like that. You ain't got to be afraid. When you driving 70, you ain't got to be afraid.
No.
When you doing the speed limit, you ain't got to be afraid. Haven't you seen the case? Get on the interstate, you get on 40, get on 65, get on 78, everybody speed. Everybody going speed. You know, you get behind one of them caravans, everybody's speeding. Soon they see that Impala sit up there. Never brake lights. But that does not have to happen if everybody do the speed limit. And it's so bad sometimes it can be a broke down Impala in the middle of the intersection. Nobody is even in the car. And we are still brake. Why? Because we're afraid of the fact of getting a ticket because we know we speed. But he says, you know what? When you abide by the laws of the land, you ain't got to be afraid of the powers that be. What else does it say?
But to the evil, without then not be afraid.
Now, when you just want to just go out here and be a law-breaking citizen, you think you live by your own rules. Some people actually think they live by their own rules. They just want to oppose all type of law and order, the police, the government. Paul said you ought to be afraid. Definitely afraid. Isn't that what he said next?
Do that which is good.